The story of Coolidge Hall begins in August 1897 when Grace Goodhue Coolidge began attending the University of Vermont. On November 29, 1897, Mrs. Coolidge was forced to withdraw from UVM due to a particularly aggravating eye infection, but she re-enrolled on September 27, 1898 and graduated in the spring of 1902. During her time at UVM, she was well known as a friendly face and as a dedicated member of UVM's Pi Phi chapter, who also sang alto in the Glee Club. During her husband's presidency, she was a public favorite and was elected as America's best-known and best-loved wife and mother by author Alice Booth. With her reputation, it was an easy decision for UVM to dedicate the newest women's dormitory to Mrs. Coolidge. Construction of Coolidge Hall began in 1947 to house the growing number of women attending the University of Vermont. It was built following the example of international style or minimalist architecture, which is characterized by a lack of ornamental features, meaning that both the interior and exterior are quite plain in appearance. The building consists of 4 floors, including a basement, and there are 93 rooms that can house up to 158 students. On January 24, 1948, Coolidge Hall was officially opened to students and a dedication ceremony was held to honor former student and First Lady Grace Goodhue Coolidge, whom the building was named after. Mrs. Coolidge was scheduled to attend this ceremony, but she decided to cancel her trip last minute due to the inclement weather. In place of her absence, Mrs. Coolidge sent a bouquet of flowers. Days later, UVM's Dean of Women, Mary Jean Simpson, sent a letter to Mrs. Coolidge expressing her disappointment and her hope that Mrs. Coolidge would visit Coolidge Hall in the upcoming summer with the warmer weather. Unfortunately, Mrs. Coolidge never saw the building that was named after her, and this embarrassing event was not the only dark cloud to befall Coolidge Hall. Only 2 years after its opening, 5 students living in Coolidge Hall traveled to Huntington Gorge in Richmond, Vermont in June of 1950. One of these students was UVM senior, 21-year-old Marjorie G. Jetz, who would meet her untimely fate in the treacherous waters after slipping on a rock and drowning in the rough current. In 1951, a recreation room in the basement of Coolidge Hall was dedicated to Marjorie, and her name is the first to appear on a plaque at Huntington Gorge that memorializes those who had died there. Today, the basement of Coolidge Hall is a long hallway of perpetually locked doors, including the recreation room dedicated to Marjorie, along with the date room, reception room, and smoking room, which were all available to students when the dormitory first opened. Along with the ghosts of the once bustling recreation rooms in the basement, Coolidge Hall is known to be home to at least 4 ghosts who continuously appeared before the current residents. These ghosts are a male presence who is most often seen staring at residents from the foot of their beds when they awake, a playful spirit who enjoys pulling blankets off beds, a whistling specter that reportedly cannot carry a tune, a man who appears in the mirrors of room 102, and potentially First Lady Coolidge herself, who died in 1957, only 9 years after Coolidge Hall was opened. So if you're a ghost hunter or just someone who likes a good fright, perhaps Coolidge Hall just might have what you're looking for. Yeah, you can. Do you think 10 seconds is sufficient?
Yeah, I'm sure. Because you can also,